Welcome to Birken Forest Monastery's live stream. I'm Ajahn Sona. Let's begin with the first question.
Ajahn, our first question today is from the live stream from Suds in Burnaby, British Columbia, Canada. Dear Ajahn, I'm trying to practice mindfulness in daily life as well as metta. How does one balance the two? Is it to be mindful and attentive at certain situations, such as driving or playing a sport, leading to metta in more tranquil situations, such as walking? Is it fair to say mindfulness leads to metta and metta leads to mindfulness?
We should clarify a little bit about mindfulness. Mindfulness is not simply like paying attention when you drive or when you're out for a walk. Mindfulness is more or less the general retention of the truth of existence. Mindfulness is given in its primary place in the path is the seventh factor. And it is described as mindfulness of the body, the feelings, your emotional state, and then the structures, what are called the structures of Dhamma, the categories of Dhamma, which are more or less instructions about what to do about mental states. So, yeah, you're out driving, of course, but somebody can be very attentive to driving, especially when you're beginning and you're excited about driving. You're enjoying the situation. You're very fully part of the situation, but that doesn't make you wise. So mindfulness is the servant of wisdom, and it is kind of the memory keeper of the truth of what's going on in life. The truth about your body, its fragility, its nature to possibly get sick, its age, for the body to be cast off at death, about the feelings in life, sensations in life, pain, pleasure, neutral, the transient nature of these things, the emotions that we experience, how we fall into, irritation and anger, aversion, desire and craving, various types of problematic emotional conditions, and then whether we retain the instructions for overcoming these negative mental states. So this is what mindfulness is, a kind of a memory at your service in different situations in life. So that works very nicely, and in fact, it overlaps with the practice of loving kindness, or what we call goodwill. Goodwill towards other beings in the world and towards yourself. And that's part of the retention, because it's a very positive emotion. It's devoid of the opposite of ill will. And so this is, first of all, we have to find our way to this positive goodwill. And now we have to remember to keep it up, not to lose it. If some situation happens which triggers your aversion, maybe you're trapped in traffic or somebody cuts you off in traffic while you're driving, it's not paying attention to your driving, it's paying attention to your reaction to the situation, that you're losing your goodwill. You're falling into road rage rather than road love, road goodwill. So it's more or less clarifying what is this thing called mindfulness. We happen to be in a retreat right now where I'm spending a lot of the retreat talking about this. I'll be giving 6 or 7 talks in this retreat about the overview of the whole teaching of the Buddha, more or less keeping the big picture in mind. And when we come to such topics as mindfulness, which has become a hugely widespread teaching as a means to mental health, we have to understand it's not simply paying attention, that it's paying attention to certain things for certain reasons and retaining a kind of constant memory, retaining memory of how you should be conducting yourself, how you should be feeling, and your attitudes towards the world, how you should be interpreting the events of life. So this is what mindfulness is, the servant of wisdom. This is what its function is.
Next question from the live stream is from No One, Everyone in Iran. Is the core concept behind right livelihood refraining from activities that perpetuate attachment, aversion, and delusion both in the person and their environment? If that is the case, each and every worldly activity is to some extent affiliated with these root defilements. Even an honorable profession, such as a healthcare provider, which aims to reduce the bodily suffering of beings, could be seen in the light of propelling lust for existence or aversiveness to physical pain or death. Only Sama Avijja would be the perfect path which the Buddha himself took, the path of absolute renunciation, as all sankharas are dukkha, which lead to further never-ending dukkha, and are ultimately trivial and as pointless as curing cancer in a dream.
Well, nicely put, curing cancer in a dream. Yeah, there are some mistakes in your assessment. So the Buddha himself actually practiced a little bit of medicine or care of monks. He said that monks, you must take care of each other when a monk is ill, and you must become their caregiver sometimes. If monks have left their family behind, then they rely on each other for care when illness happens. And the Buddha himself also experienced illness, and monks took care of him. He said, by the way, that monks, you should look on ill monks as if they were the Buddha. So you take care of the ill monks as if you were taking care of the Buddha. So obviously these kind of caregiving things, as a doctor does, can be done with detachment and skill, and don't have to be problematic or defilements. Most of the types of activities in life can be done that way. Monks, of course, have to engage in certain things. They sometimes build their own little dwellings, or dwellings for other monks. So they do carpentry, and a number of, they have to maintain a monastery, so they have to clean the toilets and sweep the floors and do their dishes. They have dishes. They eat every day out of containers, and they have to wash those containers, and they have to wash their clothes and hang them up. And all of these things are actually laid out in a very detailed way, specific manners for doing these things in a competent way, which hasn't changed much from the 5th century BC till now, actually. So these activities can be done with the right attitude, and so it doesn't necessarily lead to entanglement. In terms of livelihood, certain actions should not be done either by lay people or monks. So killing animals as a livelihood should not be done either by monks or lay people. So there's kind of unskillful types of livelihood, selling drugs, or that is non-pharmaceuticals, etc., are wrong events, wrong activities for monastics and for lay people. So we have to distinguish what this indication about wrong livelihood is. At one point, though, in one's life, one may want to dissolve the economic relationship, the livelihood aspects of making money and so forth. And as you go, so you go into the robes, the monastic life to do that. But there are all kinds of activities required in monastic life that can be carried out without problematic attachments, etc. So yeah, and in fact, monks might come up with a cure for certain types of ailments or illnesses. They're not to act as doctors to lay people. So this might be a surprise to some people, that it would be a wrong livelihood for monks to act as physicians for lay people. They can do that for fellow monastics if they have knowledge or help, so you might pick up some ideas along the way how to treat certain ailments, and you can share that with your fellow monastics, but not as a livelihood for lay people. But it's nothing wrong with certainly being a doctor, a medical doctor, and it could be done with great detachment, as well as perhaps the motivation of compassion or just mere competence. So yeah, we need to sort those kind of things out.
Next question from the live stream is from Adichita in Alberta, Canada. In your deep studies of connecting Buddhism to Greek history, did you perhaps come across a connection of the Greek concept of catharsism, meaning purification or cleansing of unwholesome emotions, and the Buddhist concept of purifying sila?
Yeah, they have similar purposes. Catharsis is talked about in, I think it's Aristotle talks about the value of catharsis through, or maybe it's Sophocles, the playwright. Why do we watch movies? Why are plays part of all of human culture? Even the most primitive tribes act out certain things. They relive wars, they relive battles, they relive hunting experiences. They express this in acting things out, playing the roles, sometimes playing the roles even of animals, even dance and so forth, and song are ways of kind of purging emotions. You can watch a play or a movie and you can exorcise, not exercise, but exorcise some of emotions vicariously through watching others act them out. So these are methods for purging problematic emotions, maybe kind of like PTSD kind of. This is perhaps the original treatment for post-traumatic stress disorder is watching plays or watching movies. So, however, sila, the practice of virtue, is also a way to purge unskillful emotions. The entire teaching of the Buddha is really cathartic. It is to teach you how to overcome past traumatic experiences, but also to protect you from future trauma by changing your attitude to existence by rehearsal. So I would say that more or less the catharsis comes through reviewing the facts of life, maybe the 5 subjects for frequent recollection. That I am of the nature to get ill, I haven't gone beyond illness, aging, death, and the loss of everything that I love. And that I'm also responsible for my intentional actions, and that's what I'm left with. So if I do unskillful things, I will have burdens left. I will inherit the results of those things. If I do skillful things, if I think skillfully, wisely, if I speak skillfully, wisely, if I do things that are skillful and wise, I will have that as my inheritance. So these are 5 subjects for frequent recollection for the sake of catharsis, perhaps. It will help you overcome trauma from the past. Trauma occurs quite often because we're not in touch with reality. We perceive what is impermanent as permanent, what is unsatisfactory as satisfactory, what is insubstantial as substantial. And this is the root of the shock and trauma of life. And if we can see what is impermanent, as what is unsatisfactory as unsatisfactory, and what is insubstantial as insubstantial, then we will purge the past mistaken ideas about life that traumatized us. And it also basically drown-proof us for future types of events. So this is the kind of the connection between this idea of catharsis and Buddhist attitudes for trauma purging and trauma prevention.
Next question is from Upasaka Adrian from Lodz, Poland. When I meditate and start to get calmer, I notice indigo and purple-colored, round, pulsating shapes. They are not still, but I find them quite fascinating. Is there any information in the canon or commentaries about the meaning of those colors? Could those be kasinas? If so, how to stabilize them?
Yeah, the term would more or less be nimittas. Nimittas are mind-made objects. So this is something that, and by the way, mudras, signs they're the symptoms, the side effects of the mind entering a certain kind of vibration or level of consciousness, calming usually. So they're not necessarily kasinas, but so kasinas are the use of colored shapes to produce concentration, deep states of serene focus. And so those nimittas could be used for that, to enter and to sustain deep states of serenity. There are already indications that the mind is going into a state of serenity. And then if you can stabilize them, that is the stabilization of samadhi, or of these deeper states of consciousness, where you're passing away from the normal state where your mind skips around and talks to itself and flits to one subject to another, does a lot of discursive activities. I mean, discourse is to talk, right? To discurse is to talk to yourself. And that chatting, that inner chatter, is can subside in deeper states of consciousness. Well, for instance, hopefully it subsides in your sleep, so you're not dreaming and talking to yourself all the time. And sometimes that's how we get, refreshed. It's possible to do this while fully conscious as well. And those purple globes, floating blobs, are a side effect, and can be used to help you do that. So they appear spontaneously, but also they can be, you can focus on them to see as kind of it's like a thermometer tells you what the temperature in the room is. The thermometer doesn't make the temperature in the room, it just reports the temperature in the room. So these purple blobs report on your deeper states of consciousness. Yeah. They don't produce those states, but they report on the states.
Next question is from the live stream from Samrit. I had a no-fault car accident in 2022, and within a few months I was having chronic nerve pain due to soft tissue injuries, which had been hard to diagnose. I often self-loathe and blame myself for the accident. How to overcome these mind states, especially when I am in chronic pain, and it keeps reminding me of the accident day and scene, especially because it's very close to my home. I also get scared to get behind the wheel again, thinking that even though I am in full control and checking my surroundings, someone can still hit me from behind, especially when I am still trying to recover and heal.
Yeah, so you are more or less mentally getting behind the wheel and running into yourself from behind. By inflicting this kind of suffering on yourself, you are reproducing that car accident again and again. It's not the car accident you need to fear, it's your mental reproduction of the car accident that you need to fear. So you have to stop getting behind the wheel in your mind and reliving the accident, because you already have the soft tissue damage. You don't want to do the mental soft tissue damage again and again to yourself. So you're replaying the accident and actually experiencing pain from that accident again and again. So you got to realize the chances of getting in a car accident are fairly small if you're a decent driver. Apparently, that accident was what you call no fault. We would also say on a Buddhist level that there is karma there. There is a reason why it happened, and the cause of the accident is not something to feel guilty about. It's not you that caused the accident, but somewhere in your past, even perhaps in a past life, some negligent activity was done causing injury to another perhaps, and then that's just playing itself out. So that being from your past, which is not your present being, that being from your past is the one that initiated that karma, and you're experiencing the results from that. It's like things we do when we're a kid, if we do stupid things, we climb up a ladder that's insecure and we fall off and injure ourselves. You can still be experiencing that injury 20 years later. It's a bad knee that you have, and you explain to people, well, how'd you get that? So, well, when I was a kid, I did something stupid. Now, it would be not very sensible to be blaming yourself when it was a child that did it. The child, and maybe there's no point in blaming the child either. Children don't have a good sense of reality and how fragile the body is. So they act out of their ignorance and sometimes injure themselves. And the adult, many, many years later, is paying the price or having the results of this. But neither are to blame. The adult didn't do it, and the adult wouldn't do it either. They know enough not to do these precarious things. But the child did it, and the child did it because of ignorance, and then you're suffering years later. So this is kind of the way to think about it in your past, that you did something in this life or in the previous lives, somewhere along the line. And then it's playing itself out in the form of, these accidents. And there is no blame to be attached. That's just increasing the suffering. So obviously you don't like soft tissue injuries, and you don't like fear and so forth. So why do you impose them on yourself? So you stop reliving the accident, and you stop being afraid to get in the car again, because, if there is karma there that needs to play out, it will find you, whether you stay home or go out on the street, doesn't matter. A tree will fall through your roof and while you're in bed. It's inevitable. We have to just walk through life realizing, I probably got some karmic debt to pay off. It'll happen. How I can cheat the system by not reacting negatively to the situation. And that's how we should address the inevitable playing out of misfortunes that have karmic roots.
Next question from the live stream is from Maria. I'm curious about Buddhism's perspective on being reborn with relatives, friends, or people with whom we had difficult relationships. Did the Buddha teach that we are reborn with certain individuals to resolve entanglements or issues we created or worked on in a previous life as a way to address our karma? I'm more familiar with Hinduism's teachings, and I believe this concept aligns with their beliefs. Additionally, is it possible to be reborn as a family member with whom you had a good relationship?
Yeah, the Buddha, first of all, talks about the business of being reborn with people that you're familiar with. In the West, the idea of reincarnation sometimes is thought to be a rare experience where somebody remembers their past life, or they're born in a situation where they recognize somebody. You know, maybe a rare experience where, oh, we used to be brother and sister, or we used to be husband and wife. What a rare thing. But the Buddha says, actually, no, it's extremely common. You can't step out the door without running into beings that have shared life experiences with you. It's very, very common to have, once again, be in contact with people you've had contact with before. So being reborn in the same family or something is not uncommon at all. As far as the purpose of this, it's not purposeful. It's not so in ideas of karma where a deity is like God is involved, like God is giving you lessons, life lessons, where you get to try the situation out again and learn from the experience. Buddhism doesn't formulate it that way. It would be good if you learned from the experience, but you're not plunged into the situation in order that you learn from the situation. The situation happens. Many events will happen in your life where you could learn from them. You could use them profitably or not. But there's nothing inevitable about that. So being reborn is not so that you can learn the lesson. It's that you are reborn and causes that have been laid down in the past play themselves out. And it would behoove you to learn not to suffer in the midst of this. So it would be good if you could learn the lesson, not to repeat mistakes. But it's not, the universe doesn't deposit you there so that you can learn. The Buddhist notion of the universe is that it is not a just or kind place. Events play themselves out, and suffering happens. And if only wisdom can reduce the suffering in the innate suffering of existence. So we don't have this idea that it's designed by a creator that has only the best of intentions for you. More or less the opposite, that it's quite distressful. The universe is a distressful place. Birth and living in it is full of and fraught with tragedies and suffering. And we're neither blaming a creator nor spinning the story to make it all seem like it was that it's all for the good, but we just don't understand it. We get it. We understand it. There's a lot of suffering. It's random. It's very lawful. There are laws certainly laws of physics and chemistry, and there are laws of psychology as well, and there are also moral laws as well. But no necessarily somebody behind that making those laws. They're just intrinsic to the experience, the universe itself. It's just the nature of the universe. We don't attribute a creator of all these laws. They're just, all we know is that there are laws. And it's best to know what the laws are and then to reduce the inherent problems and sufferings of existence by this means.
Next question is from Tissa and Molly in Chilliwack, British Columbia, Canada. To our knowledge, altruism, according to Buddhist teachings, is to give help unconditionally. In lay life, there are instances where one offers help willingly, but would like the receiver to reciprocate with an expression of gratitude or acknowledgement. Otherwise, those situations can create negativity. One can feel hurt and begin to believe the receiver did not care or have been taken advantage of. How do you reconcile such negative feelings?
Yeah, the Buddha warns against that. Say, don't have expectations about return. If you do something karmically good, you will get good results. And it doesn't matter whether the person who is the recipient of the gift acknowledges it or not. It's just locked in, you know. You can do it without concern for the appreciation of the recipient. Some people would say, particularly in the West, that you give without expectation of return, and that's its own reward. Well, it is its own reward, but from a Buddhist point of view, there will be positive results, and the appreciation of the recipient of the gift is completely secondary to that. There's no need for if they don't appreciate it or return that's a negative on their part. They perhaps when they give, they will not be appreciated, etc. So the skill of giving is to give appropriately, the right thing at the right time and with joy, and to also know that the positive results from this will inevitably appear. And that takes away the need for any kind of appreciation of it. If one wants to exercise this, then you can give anonymous gifts. Just enjoy the satisfaction of giving without making sure that the recipient will never know where it came from. One of the exercises I did when I was, first practicing Dhamma and Buddhism, long before I became a monk, was just to go around in like public parks and pick up garbage. Just pick it up and put it in the garbage cans and so forth. Nobody is ever going to know that you did this. And it's quite delightful to just go and do acts of public good without any kind of, no one knowing what you're doing, and freeing yourself from the need for any kind of acknowledgement. It's really quite delightful. Secret acts of goodness are fun.
Next question is from the live stream from Ryan. How can we help others overcome deep-seated hatred towards close family members?
Well, it's not in your control. Other people's minds are not in your control. Our own minds are hardly in our control. Why do we concern ourselves so much with others when we realize we can hardly manage this stuff ourselves? So what we do is to say, well, everybody is the inheritor of their own karma. Each being is the recipient of their actions. If somebody within a family is full of hate for another family member, then they are suffering. Anger and hatred always arise associated with unpleasant emotions. Now, one of the ways of explaining it to a person is to point out to them that they suffer. It is, you can give them a simile that the Buddha gave. Anger is like a stick that you pick up to hit somebody. One end is smeared with feces, and the other one is burning. No matter whether you either get this crap all over your hand, smelly crap all over your hand, or you burn it. If you, whatever end you pick up, anger or hatred, whatever to hit somebody with, you either burn yourself or become filthy with it. So why would you pick up that stick? You wouldn't want to pick up that stick. So this is a way of telling a little story that the person might learn, that don't touch that stick. One end is filthy, the other one burns you. And so the person may have resentment to the family member. They might have done them bad things and everything, but you point out to them, the only way you can make this worse is to pick up that stick of anger or hatred, and there is no other way. Then either you get stinky and dirty or you get burnt. So don't touch that stick. They either understand that or they don't. Yeah.
Next question from the live stream is from Bodhipala in Canmore, Alberta, Canada. The way you describe the development of breath meditation in the short YouTube series, it sounds like PT Sukha would reduce just before first jhana, then upswing again. Why would that be the case? Then later on, how would its quality or strength change at second jhana?
Piti and Sukha are joy and happiness of the body, so kind of a pervasive sense of well-being through the body. Joy of the mind and well-being of the body. Piti is the joy of the mind, and the Sukha is the pleasure and ease of the body, the feeling of happiness, you know. The first jhana is a state of focused interested concentration, focus. Notice that naturally, whenever you're really interested in something and you're able to engage with it, that their side effect is always, it's joyful. It's a joyful experience. And that's what we're always looking for something. When we're not interested, when we're bored and unfocused, we don't feel well. It disappoints us. So we look for interesting things, something that will produce joy in ourselves. We want to enjoy our life, and we look for ways to enjoy our life. So the first jhana is the Buddha describing how does joy and enjoyment arise. It arises because of interest and focus of the mind. And it's better to cultivate your interest and focus on low sensory topics, so that you don't require high stimulus objects which are out of your command and control in order to have an enjoyment, a period of enjoyment in your life. If you can manage to find enjoyment in the experience of breathing, wow, you are now independently wealthy. You don't need any kind of spectacular events in the world to catch your attention. Now you have your own source of joy and interest. So this is the condition of the first of these stages of deepening clarity of mind. As you go deeper, the joy remains and the pleasure remains, and you can let go of some of the instability of your attention. Your attention is just increasing and the focus is sustaining. So that's the second jhana. It's just deeper. And by the third jhana, it is even more purified. You now left all kinds of thinking processes behind, and you're just absolutely saturated with ease and well-being. And it's described as a very, very beautiful place to be. I know, a nice place it's like some sort of mansion that you've managed to Airbnb. You're a really nice place. However long you can stay in it, depending on how much you can afford. By the way, your capacity, your affordability is the wealth that you've developed through the practice of the Eightfold Path. If you have practiced it well, you will end up with access to these mansions of beautiful experiences. They are actually the real place where you really live. Is not in a building, but the emotional structures. And some emotions are gorgeous, beautiful, fantastic, and others are dreadful. And if you have cultivated the path, then you will be able to enter into these gorgeous mansions of emotions and dwell in them for extended periods of time. Eventually, joy subsides because there are places that are even better. So it's kind of like going from a Baroque or a Rococo kind of palace to a kind of serene minimalism palace, which is even more beautiful. Notice people do that. They might go from a lot of candy colors and excess furnitures. They like their houses. They make it joyful and cheerful and everything. But after a while, sometimes they start to cultivate a taste for more serene types of environments. They go to more minimalistic experiences, which are exquisite. But that requires a maturity of taste. So that the deeper jhanas, the deeper levels, the third and fourth level, have more the characteristic of the reduction of joy, which is kind of like the primary colors decoration, down to a more kind of shades of cool and gray that you have the refinement to appreciate. Yeah. So that's the transitional structures.
Next question from the live stream is a similar question from Mustafa. What is the difference between joy in metta and joy in jhana? If the jhana is cultivated by meditating on the metta feeling, when the subject of meditation is the metta feeling and ekaggata, one-pointedness is obtained in relation to the metta, is the jhanic joy that arises at this stage the same as the metta joy that is intensified, or is it of a different quality?
Yeah, that may sound complicated to some of our listeners, but it's not. So metta is goodwill, and goodwill in itself can be an ecstatic experience, a profoundly meditative experience. There is just goodwill when you're walking down the sidewalk. This is also you're on the edge of this samadhi experience. You can carry it around with you. Walk. The Buddha said, goodwill can be maintained walking, standing, sitting, and lying down. And he highly recommended that you did retain a sense of goodwill, walking, standing, sitting, and lying down. And if you want to go deeper into it, perhaps just sitting and cultivating it in a deeper way can render it into this, what we call this samadhi experience, this deep state of bliss sweeping through the body and the mind. So they are, jhana and metta are the same thing. It's very clear that the commentaries answer this question: can the jhanas be entered through metta? And they say, yeah, of course, yes. In fact, what are called the four sublime emotions of goodwill, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity are these four mansions of emotion. And all of them can produce focus and emotional content of the quality of the four jhanas. There is some debate whether metta and compassion and sympathetic joy can go beyond the third jhana, because the nature of the fourth jhana is almost exclusively equanimity. So it seems the commentary says that perhaps the fourth jhana cannot be entered with the first three of the Brahma viharas, the loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy. Other commentaries say that it can. It's hard to reconcile this view that it can be, because the contents of the fourth jhana are exclusively equanimity. But anyway, certainly any of the first three of the jhanas, based on these beautiful emotions of goodwill, compassion, sympathetic joy, are remarkable and profound, some of the peaks of possibilities of human experience. So yes, they're blended and mixed. Yeah. Okay, let's go on to our next question.
Next question is from Anonymous in Auckland, New Zealand. There is a quote which states, quote, "Body knows before mind," unquote. Why do some people who are highly sensitive beings recognize another's energy in a flash, whether it is aligned or not aligned with the individual's values? Also, there is so much labeling between people because the knowledge of human behaviors is widely educated on social media. How do adults who have less perception or no perception at all survive in this world?
Well, the idea that body knows before mind, sometimes we have a kind of autonomic system which has to react. It doesn't have time for the mind to process events. So if you have a fall, you slip and fall, you'll find that the body does remarkable things, and looking back on it, you have no idea how you managed to do that. It will find a way to, protect itself, and that has to happen in the blink of an eye. This can happen around groups of people as well. We have to have this kind of reaction time because not all people wish us well. We need to feel the energies and the vibe of other people intuitively, and you'll experience it as a bodily sensation. You don't have time to rationally figure it out. But of course, it's not simply the body doing this. It is some level of the mind that bypasses the linear discursive aspect and it responds in a very fast, intuitive way to things. There are apparently people who just have no judgment about these things. Their more or less subconscious mind is not very developed in detecting bad associations with people or situations. They don't have a sense of danger or appropriate intuition about those who would do them ill. And what you're asking, what'll happen to them? Well, they'll probably have a bad experience, at least a bad experience. It may be many bad experiences. So this is part of the learning. The first blessing in life the Buddha talks about is not to associate with the foolish. But if you have no idea what the foolish are, then you're going to have some bad experiences. It would, in fact, tell you that you yourself are not very wise, that you're foolish, and therefore you associate with the foolish, because you cannot tell that they're foolish. The Buddha says, can a bad person tell if another person is bad? Can a bad person tell if another person is good? And he says, it cannot be that a bad person can know if another person is bad. Cannot be that a bad person can know if another person is good. Sort of like a person who is tone deaf. Can you know if another person is tone deaf if you're tone deaf? No, you can't. Can you tell that another person has an exquisite sense of pitch if you're tone deaf? No, you can't. So this is a kind of knowledge and wisdom that should be cultivated. And if you don't have it yourself, then you should hopefully you have some guidance from other people who are wise. And this is what parents do all the time with children. They say, now I don't want you to associate with those kids. You stay away from those kids. And you don't know why. You think it might be fun to go and play with those boys over there, but those boys over there can't wait to get a hold of you and beat you up, or get you to do stupid things. So your parents know that you don't have the discriminating wisdom to deal with this, so they tell you, do not associate with those people. So this is the case even as you grow up. Lots of adults just don't have the faculty of wisdom that tells you not to associate with certain things or not to do certain kinds of activities. Yeah.
Next question is from the live stream from W3R, and it's similar to the last question you just answered. I am a social worker working with kids and teens who live under challenging circumstances. Often they are made an instrument for stealing by their parents or to cover their addiction. What are the karmic results for those young human beings that are manipulated, brainwashed, and abused by others to commit bad actions for others?
Yes, they're not off the hook. They will have negative results. And you can see in this very life that they do have negative. They end up, somebody miseducated them or misdirected them, and they end up in jail nevertheless. And in jail, they may have very unfortunate experiences. You get beat up or even killed. And so the fact that this is the tragic nature of existence. This is why we don't have this idea that God has a special plan, that it's all good, in the end. No, it's obviously a lot of suffering. And it's a dismaying sight. The entire experience of what happens on this planet and in this universe is dismal in many cases. And children raised in these bad situations, it's very unfortunate, isn't it? And nevertheless, they won't escape the results of this. The Buddha talks about this as even one does negative things and ends up after death, ends up in a low and painful existence, and which can be immensely long. And then on rebirth, they manage to rise back to the human realm, and they're born into a bad situation again, likely to be born in a bad situation again, and that they are misled and misdirected, and then they end up in a lower realm again. So the lesson there is that lower realms, bad actions lead to lower realms, and lower realms, once again, often lead to bad actions, which leads to lower realms. So you tend to cycle again and again into bad situations. If you fall in with the good company and they give you good directions, you end up in the higher realms, and you tend to cycle back into the higher realms. So whatever realm you're in, you tend to cycle in that. And it's really, it's fortunate if you're in the higher realms, you tend to cycle back into the higher realms. The good get better, the good get good, and those who do unskillful things end up in a cycle of unskillful things. It's it's a tragedy. There is a reason why we aspire to nibbana, out of the cycle of birth and death. We're not pleased with the situation, so we conclude with the big picture tells us to seek a way out of these cycles. Okay, so that is it for today. We will leave it for today, and I will return to teaching this retreat that we were in, and we will see you next week.